His teacher never called on him. Until the day she decided to humiliate him in front of everyone. But when he started playing, the look on her face said it all. She never saw it coming. Elijah Rivers sat near the window, his pencil tapping rhythmically against his notebook. It wasn't nerves, just a habit, one his mother always told him to stop. But it helped him think. The classroom at Jefferson Middle School in Little Rock, Arkansas, buzzed with the usual pre-lesson chatter. But Elijah kept his focus on the worksheet in front of him. He liked finishing things early. Miss Abigail Thornton stood at the front of the room, skimming through her notes. She had been teaching 6th grade for nearly 15 years. In that time, she had built a reputation. Strict, but fair. At least, that's what her favorite students believed. Elijah had never been one of them. It wasn't obvious. She didn't yell, she didn't insult him directly, but she almost never called on him when he raised his hand. And if he got something wrong, rare as it was, she would linger on it, as if she enjoyed the moment. Elijah noticed, and so did a few of his classmates. "Yo, she barely even looks at you," Tyler Whitman, the boy sitting next to him, whispered one afternoon. "You got like teacher invisibility or something." Elijah only shrugged. "Guess I do." But today felt different. Miss Thornton kept glancing his way more than usual. Not in the way that meant he was in trouble. It was something else. Something like anticipation. The lesson began. A standard history discussion. Something about the Civil War. Elijah took notes, listening carefully, waiting for the usual pattern to repeat. But then, something unexpected happened. "Elijah," Miss Thornton said, her voice crisp, "why don't you answer this one?" Heads turned. Elijah blinked. She never called on him. He sat up straighter, scanning the board. General Sherman's March to the Sea was a military campaign meant to destroy the Confederacy's resources and morale. She murmured. Not bad at all. It was a perfect textbook answer. A few students exchanged glances. Tyler shot him a look that said, "What was that about?" The lesson continued. But the shift had been made. Miss Thornton wasn't ignoring him anymore. She was watching him. And then, right before the bell rang, she made her move. "Elijah," as students began packing their bags, "stay behind for a moment." A few heads turned, but no one said anything. Elijah took his time putting his notebook away before walking up to her desk. "I overheard you talking the other day. About your grandfather." Elijah frowned. "What about him?" "You said he was a musician." Her tone made the air feel heavier. He nodded slowly. "Yeah, he was a pianist. Played jazz." Miss Thornton's lips curved slightly. Not quite a smirk, but close. "Interesting." She leaned back in her chair, fingers tapping lightly on the desk. "You must have learned something from him." Elijah hesitated. "A little," he admitted. Her smile widened, but there was no kindness in it. "Good to know." The bell rang. Elijah grabbed his bag and turned toward the door. But her voice stopped him. "Tomorrow, let's see what you've got." He turned back. "What?" "The piano," she said, nodding toward the old upright in the corner of the room. Its surface was dull, the keys yellowed. "You'll play something for the class." Elijah stared. A few remaining students had paused near the doorway, eyes flicking between them. "Why?" he asked quietly. Miss Thornton tilted her head slightly. almost amused. "Why not? I said your grandfather played. I'm sure you have some of that talent in you." Elijah knew that tone. It wasn't curiosity. It wasn't encouragement. It was a setup. But he wasn't going to back down. That night, Elijah barely slept. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the conversation in his mind. This wasn't a request. It was a challenge. And he knew what kind. She expected him to fail, to stumble, to prove her assumptions right. But she didn't know everything. The next morning, Elijah walked into the classroom feeling the weight of something different. Word had spread quickly. Whispers followed him to his seat. "You gonna play today?" Brandon Hall smirked from across the room. "Didn't know you were a piano guy," Tyler murmured beside him. Elijah kept his eyes on his notebook. There's a lot people don't know. Miss Abigail Thornton entered, setting her books down with that same calm satisfaction. She barely acknowledged anyone, but her eyes flicked toward Elijah once before starting the lesson. The first half of the class dragged on endlessly. Elijah could barely focus. His mind kept jumping ahead to what was coming. Then, finally, she closed her book. "Well," she said, glancing at the clock, "we have a few minutes left." "Perfect." She turned toward the piano in the corner. "Elijah, let's see what you can do." The air changed instantly. Students shifted in their seats. Some whispered, some just stared. Elijah didn't move right away. He could feel every eye on him. His heartbeat wasn't racing. It was steady, strong. Then he stood up. A few muffled laughs rippled through the room. Someone muttered under their breath, but he ignored it. He already knew the tone. Miss Thornton clasped her hands together. "Play whatever you'd like." Elijah studied the piano. It was old, the key slightly yellowed and chipped. He ran his fingers lightly across them. It was out of tune, not badly, but enough to notice. He sat down, rested his hands on the keys. He knew exactly what he was going to play. Someone snickered, a quiet laugh in the back. He ignored it. This wasn't about proving Miss Thornton wrong. It was about proving everyone wrong. The classroom had never been this silent. Miss Thornton's usual air of confidence had been replaced by curiosity. Elijah placed his fingers on the keys. They felt familiar, not like the piano at home, but close enough. His grandfather's piano had been smooth, warm, full of life. This one felt tired, stiff. He took a deep breath. Then he began. The first few notes drifted softly through the room, a slow, bluesy rhythm, the kind his grandfather used to play on hot Arkansas afternoons. His fingers moved with confidence. His left hand kept time while his right hand carried the melody. The whisper stopped. The laughter died. Miss Thornton frowned slightly, crossing her arms. She had expected hesitation, maybe a mistake or two. But what she heard wasn't that. Elijah didn't look up. He wasn't playing for them anymore. He was playing for himself, for his grandfather. He let himself sink into the music, feeling every note as it told its own story. His fingers moved faster, sliding across the keys, blending precision with emotion. It wasn't just skill, it was soul. Then he took a risk. He shifted into something more complex. A progression his grandfather had taught him, one he had struggled with for months before mastering. A rolling bass line under a rising, soaring melody. The room seemed to hold its breath. No one spoke. No one even moved. Tyler leaned forward slightly. Brandon's smirk was gone. A few other students exchanged glances, faces full of surprise, and something close to respect. Then came the crescendo. Elijah's fingers pressed hard into the keys, the chords echoed, filling every corner of the classroom. The sound grew stronger, fuller, alive. He played like he was releasing everything he had been holding inside. And then, silence. The final note hung in the air, long and soft, before fading away. No one moved. No one said a word. Then, a single